Hey guys, tonight we're diving into 1,000 years of kings, queens, and quiet control. Every British monarchy explained. Not just the who, but the why. The power plays, the illusions, the blood beneath the gold. So before you settle in, take a second to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is. I always love seeing the story stretch across time zones. Now dim the lights. Let the room go still. And let's drift into the long-shadowed history of the crown. Listen, do you hear it? The whisper of 1,000 years, the echo of crowns falling, the scream of kingdoms born in blood. This is the story of power, raw, unforgiving, absolute. This is the story of the British crown. But before there was a crown, there was chaos. The year is 800 AD. England doesn't exist. Not yet. Instead, a patchwork of kingdoms bleeds across the land. Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria. Each ruled by men who call themselves kings. Each ready to die for a throne that might not exist tomorrow. Power is fragile here. A sword thrust away from extinction. In this world of shadows and steel, one name rises from the darkness. Egbert, King of Wessex warrior conqueror. The first man to dream of something impossible. One England, one crown, one king. But dreams built on blood have a price. And in 9th century England, that price is always paid in full. Egbert's grandson would learn this lesson. His name was Alfred. History calls him the Great. But greatness in the Dark Ages means something different, something darker. The year is 871. The Vikings are coming, not raiders this time, conquerors. An entire army of Norsemen, hungry for English soil, hungry for English blood. They've already devoured kingdoms, Northumbria, East Anglia. Mercia teeters on the edge of collapse. Only Wessex remains. Only Alfred stands between England and oblivion. Picture this moment. A young king, barely 22 years old. His kingdom burning around him. His people fleeing to the marshes like hunted animals. The Vikings think they've won. They're wrong. Alfred doesn't just survive. He transforms. From a desperate king hiding in swamps to the architect of English civilization. He builds fortresses, creates laws, establishes schools, but most importantly, he builds something else. Hope. The idea that England could be more than warring tribes, more than blood-soaked kingdoms fighting over scraps of land. Alfred plants a seed, a dangerous seed, the seed of unity. When Alfred dies in 899, that seed begins to grow. His son Edward takes the throne. Then his grandson Ethelstan. And Ethelstan does something unprecedented. He calls himself King of the English. Not King of Wessex. Not King of Mercia, King of the English. For the first time in history, England has a single ruler. One man, one crown, one kingdom. But unity built on conquest is fragile. And in medieval England, nothing lasts forever. The year is 1066. Edward the Confessor is dead. No heir, no clear succession. The kingdom Alfred built is about to shatter. 3 men claim the throne. Harold Godwinson, the English Earl. Harold Hardrada, the Viking King. And across the Channel, a Norman Duke with a dangerous ambition. His name is William. History calls him the Conqueror. But first, he has to conquer. William crosses the Channel with 7,000 men. Armored knights, archers, ambition. The Battle of Hastings begins. October 14th, 1066. One day, one battle, one crown. William wins. Harold Godwinson is dead, and the age of Anglo-Saxon kings ends in blood. William becomes king, but not just a king. A conqueror who reshapes England from the bones up. He builds castles, crushes rebellions, replaces English lords with Norman ones. He rewrites the land itself. Everything changes. Names, laws, language. Power now flows from Normandy. And the crown becomes something new, a weapon. The centuries that follow are soaked in power struggles, between kings and barons, between church and crown, between England and itself. But no moment defines the stakes like the year 1215. King John sits on the throne, cruel, inept, despised. The barons have had enough. At Runnymede, they force his hand. He signs the Magna Carta. Not just a document, a revolution in ink. For the first time, the crown is not absolute. The king is subject to law. A crack appears in royal power. And through that crack, a new idea will grow. Parliament, rights, resistance. But the crown doesn't give up power quietly. It never does. 100 years later, that same struggle explodes again. But this time, it's not barons with swords. It's war with a parliament. The English Civil War, 1642. King Charles I believes in divine right. God chose him. God alone can judge him. Parliament disagrees. Armies rise. England tears itself apart. Brother fights brother. Father kills son. It ends with something unthinkable. The king loses. And then, they cut off his head. January 30th, 1649. The axe falls. The crowd gasps. A king's blood stains the scaffold. For the first time, the English crown is dead. What follows isn't peace. It's a void, a republic under Oliver Cromwell. But power hates a vacuum, and England isn't ready to live without a crown. 1660. The monarchy returns. Charles II becomes king. But things are different now. The crown has bled, and it remembers. It rules, but never again alone. The glorious revolution of 1688 cements it. King James II flees. Parliament brings in William and Mary. A monarchy not by divine right, but by contract. A crown allowed to exist by the will of the people. It's the beginning of something fragile. A monarchy that reigns, but no longer rules. Centuries pass. Kings and queens come and go. Empires rise and fall. The crown survives, sometimes adored, sometimes hated, but always there. By the 20th century, the world changes faster than any throne can follow. 2 world wars, a shrinking empire, newspapers, cameras, television. The monarchy becomes a symbol, a story, held together by ritual and image. No one understood this better than Elizabeth II. When she takes the throne in 1952, she inherits more than a title. She inherits a myth, one she must protect at all costs. For 70 years, she does just that. She becomes the face of duty, of stability, of tradition, through crisis after crisis. Windsor Castle burning, Princess Diana's death, political scandal, royal divorces. She endures, not with power, but presence, a constant in a chaotic world. But even constants fade. September 8th, 2022. Elizabeth dies. And with her, something else slips into history. An age, a legacy, a symbol of what the crown was. Now it belongs to her son, King Charles III. And so the question returns. What is the crown? A relic, a burden, or something more dangerous? Still to come. The British monarchy is not a fairy tale. It's not a costume. It's not even a tradition. It's a survival machine, a shapeshifter, a mask that changes faces but keeps the same eyes. It has outlived empires. It has buried its enemies. It has rewritten its own past to stay alive. But at its heart lies the same thing it began with. Power. Not the power to rule armies or pass laws, but the power to define what is normal, what is sacred, what is British. And that's why it matters. Because as long as the crown exists, it shapes the story the nation tells about itself. Every generation sees the crown differently. For some, it's comfort. For others, control. For some, it's pride. For others, pain. It is adored and attacked in equal measure. But it endures, because the crown doesn't care what you think. It doesn't feel, it doesn't flinch, it adapts, always. That's how it survives. And yet, every survival has a cost. Every adaptation leaves something behind, and every era of the crown writes its name in blood or silence. What does this era write? That answer hasn't come yet, but it's coming. It may come with King Charles, or with the next, or the one after that, but it will come, because symbols crack, even the strongest ones, especially the strongest ones. The crown is no longer above the people. It walks among them, judged, measured, watched, loved sometimes, loathed often. In a world of screens and speed and stories, the crown is just one story among many. And stories can be rewritten, forgotten, replaced. All it takes is time, and the courage to imagine something else. The question isn't whether the crown will fall. The question is whether it will matter if it does. Because power doesn't vanish, it moves, it disguises itself. And sometimes it wears a crown. Sometimes it wears a suit. Sometimes it hides behind a screen. But it's always there, waiting, watching, and whispering the same old promise. That someone must rule, that someone must be followed, that someone must wear the crown, even if we don't call it that anymore. The past isn't past. It's armor, it's warning, it's blueprint. And in the story of the British crown, every chapter is soaked in that past, in conquest, in compromise, in spectacle and silence. We are told it's history, but history is never neutral. It teaches what to remember and what to forget. The crown has always known that. It built its legacy not just in castles and ceremonies, but in memory. It teaches loyalty by making tradition feel eternal. But nothing is eternal, not even the crown, just the illusion of it. That illusion is fading, not all at once, not in flames, but in questions. Why? What for? Who does this serve? And when answers don't satisfy, silence speaks louder. The younger generations don't rebel. They drift, they scroll past, they move on. And that may be the crown's final challenge. Not a revolution, but irrelevance. Not an uprising, but forgetting. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And that may be the one thing the crown cannot survive. So now we return to the beginning. Listen, do you hear it? The whisper of 1,000 years. The echo of kings and queens, of blood and gold, of power dressed in robes, of thrones built on bones. That sound is not history, it's prophecy. Because the story of the crown isn't over. It never is. Not while we believe in it. Not while we kneel. Not while we care. But if the whispers fade, if the stories lose their grip, if the crown becomes just another relic in a museum, then the story ends. Not with a bang, but a silence. A silence 1,000 years deep. She inherits a kingdom torn by religious strife, surrounded by enemies. A woman on a throne of men. They call it the Golden Age, the Elizabethan era. But gold is forged in fire. She navigates the religious divide with cunning. A Protestant queen who tolerates Catholics. A master of compromise. A survivor. She faces the might of Spain, the Spanish Armada, the greatest fleet the world has ever seen, sent to crush her, to reclaim England for Rome. She stands before her troops at Tilbury. A woman, a queen, a warrior. I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and of a king of England too. They are defeated, the Armada scattered by storms and English resolve. England is safe for now. She never marries. The Virgin Queen, her body, her kingdom, her legacy, her choice. She fosters art, Shakespeare writes. Explorers sail. England looks outward, to a new world, to an empire. She dies in 1603, the last Tudor, She leaves behind a nation transformed, a global power, a Protestant stronghold, a land united. But the question remains, who will rule now? From Scotland, a new king approaches, a new dynasty, and a storm unlike any England has ever seen. 1603. Elizabeth I is dead, the Tudor line extinguished. A new king arrives from Scotland, James VI of Scotland, now James I of England. He is a scholar, a philosopher. He believes in the divine right of kings, that God himself has chosen him to rule, that his power is absolute, unquestionable. But England has changed. Parliament has grown strong. They believe in their rights. They believe in their voice. They believe in limits. This is the collision. The irresistible force meets the immovable object. King versus Parliament. God versus man. His son, Charles I, inherits the crown. And the conflict Charles is devout reserved. He believes in his father's divine right with an unshakable conviction. He dismisses Parliament. He raises taxes without their consent. He tries to impose religious uniformity. He pushes and pushes and pushes until 1642. The fuse ignites. Civil war, royalists, cavaliers, for the king, for absolute power, parliamentarians, roundheads, for liberty, for the rights of Englishmen. Brother against brother, father against son. A nation tears itself apart. 5 years of brutal, bloody conflict. The land is ravaged, the people suffer, and the unthinkable happens. The king is captured. Charles I, the anointed of God, on trial for treason, January 30th, 1649. Whitehall, London, a scaffold, a masked executioner. A king kneels. He speaks his last words. I go from a corruptible to an incorruptible crown. The axe falls. England is a republic, a commonwealth ruled by a man of iron will. Oliver Cromwell. He is not a king, but he wears the power of one. Lord Protector. A title made to sound humble, but make no mistake. This is monarchy by another name. Cromwell rules with iron discipline. He crushes opposition. He bans frivolity. No theater, no dancing, no Christmas. A kingdom of silence and steel, but iron rusts. And when Cromwell dies in 1658, so does the Republic. 2 years later, the monarchy returns. Restoration, they call it. Charles II is king's son of the executed monarch, a man of charm, wit, and indulgence. He brings back laughter, music, theater, but also plague and fire. The Great Fire of London, 1666. Destruction and rebirth. Just like the crown. But the struggle between king and parliament isn't over. It never is. Charles dies. His brother James II takes the throne. A Catholic king in a Protestant nation. Unacceptable Parliament acts. They invite William of Orange, a Protestant husband to James's daughter Mary, 1688. William lands, James flees. No blood is shed. They call it the Glorious Revolution. A king replaced by law, not war. For the first time, Parliament chooses the monarch William and Mary rule together. But under conditions, the Bill of Rights is signed limits on royal power. Parliament supreme. The crown remains. But the rules have changed. The 18th and 19th centuries are centuries of change. Industrial revolution, empire expansion. War with France. The crown becomes symbol more than sovereign. But symbols are powerful. They shape identity. They mask authority in tradition. Victoria ascends in 1837. She becomes the image of the empire. The widow in black, the mother of a nation. Under her, Britain becomes the world's superpower. The sun never sets on the British Empire. But beneath the grandeur, unease brews. Colonies chafe. Factories exploit and revolution whispers, even empires wear out. Victoria dies in 1901. A new century, a new monarch. Edward VII, then George V. The First World War comes, monarchy across Europe falls, Russia, Germany, Austria, Hungary, but not Britain. The crown survives. It adapts, changes its name from Saxe-Coburg and Gotha to Windsor-less. German, more British. It aligns with the people. It becomes part of the war effort, a symbol of unity, and in the chaos, it endures. But the world it ruled is gone. And what comes next is even harder to control. The 1930s, depression, fascism rising, and scandal at the heart of the monarchy. King Edward VIII falls in love with an American divorcee, Wallis Simpson, but he is king, head of the Church of England. He cannot marry her, not and remain on the throne. So he abdicates, December 1936. He walks away from power. For the woman I love, the crown passes to his brother George VI, a shy man, unprepared but strong. He leads Britain through World War II, through blitz and battle, and out the other side, a king forged by crisis. He dies in 1952. His daughter becomes Queen Elizabeth II, a young woman, thrust into history. Her coronation is broadcast on television, the first global monarch. An empire dissolves around her, India is gone. Africa follows. The Commonwealth replaces the empire. A softer network, but still a legacy of control. Through decades, she becomes a symbol of duty, stability, tradition. She says little shows, little but remains constant. And in a century of change, that constancy is power. Together, they project an image of domestic bliss, of family values, of stability. Then, 1861. Albert dies. Victoria retreats into mourning, into isolation. For 40 years, she wears black, a widow queen, a symbol of national grief. But even in her grief, she rules with an iron will, with an unshakable sense of duty. The monarchy changes, from political power to symbolic presence. Parliament gains strength. Prime ministers rise and fall. But Victoria remains, a constant, a figurehead, a mother to her nation. She is the grandmother of Europe. Her children marry into royal houses across the continent. Her influence stretches far beyond the shores of Britain. She dies in 1901, the end of an era, the end of a century, the end of a queen. She leaves behind a legacy of unparalleled power, of immense wealth, of profound social change, and a monarchy transformed, respected, enduring. But the 20th century is coming, and it will test the crown in ways Victoria could never have imagined. The 20th century brought enormous changes for Britain and its monarchy, a period marked by both great challenges and significant transformation. It began with the reign of Edward VII, who took the throne in 1901, following the long and steady rule of Queen Victoria. Edward VII's time as king is often remembered as the Edwardian era, a relatively relaxed and elegant period compared to the Victorian age. Society was beginning to modernize rapidly. Technological advances like automobiles and electricity becoming more common, social customs and fashion evolving with a lighter touch. Edward VII was a popular monarch known for his charm and social skills. He helped to modernize the image of the monarchy, making it more accessible and relatable to the public. Yet despite the outward appearance of calm and sophistication, Europe was moving toward a time of great upheaval that would test monarchies and nations alike. Edward VII's son, George V, ascended the throne in 1910, just a few years before the outbreak of World War I. This global conflict brought unprecedented devastation, changed the world forever. George V's reign was defined by the need to navigate the immense challenges posed by the war. He worked to unite the country during the darkest of times, showing a strong sense of duty and commitment to his people. During the war, many members of the royal family served in the military. The king himself changed the family's German-sounding name from Saxe-Coburg and Gotha to Windsor. to show solidarity with the British people. This period also saw the rise of modern politics. New ideas about democracy, social justice, and the role of government gaining ground. Under George V, the monarchy had to adapt to a society where ordinary people increasingly demanded a voice in governance. This led to significant political reforms, including the extension of voting rights to more men and eventually women. The king's careful navigation of these changes helped preserve the monarchy's relevance in a rapidly evolving political landscape. After George V's death in 1936, his son Edward VIII inherited the throne. But his reign would be brief and controversial. Edward shocked the nation and the world when he chose to abdicate the throne in order to marry Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee, which was seen as unacceptable by the Church of England and the British establishment at the time. This decision caused a constitutional crisis, shaking the foundations of the monarchy and sparking intense public debate. Edward's abdication was unprecedented, left the royal family reeling, as well as raising questions about the role and influence of the monarch in modern Britain. In his place, Edward's younger brother, George VI, unexpectedly became king. George VI's reign coincided with some of the darkest days in British history. His leadership during World War II helped to restore faith in the monarchy at a time when the nation needed a steady and reassuring figure. Though initially reluctant to become king due to a stammer and shy nature, George VI rose to the occasion with quiet determination and strength. His speeches, often broadcast on the radio, brought comfort and hope to a country facing bombing raids, rationing, and loss. Alongside his wife, Queen Elizabeth, later known as the Queen Mother, he became a symbol of resilience and national unity. George VI's dedication to duty helped maintain the monarchy's place in a world that was rapidly changing due to war and technological advancements. By the time of his death in 1952, he had solidified the monarchy as a symbol of stability and continuity, helping it survive through one of the most turbulent centuries in British history. Queen Elizabeth II's accession to the throne in 1952 marked the beginning of one of the longest and most remarkable reigns in British history. At just 25 years old, Elizabeth inherited a kingdom still recovering from the devastation of World War II. The early post-war years were challenging. Britain was grappling with economic hardships. Rationing had only recently ended, and the scars of conflict were visible across the nation. Elizabeth's role as queen was not just ceremonial. She became a symbol of hope and renewal for a country eager to rebuild. Her steady and calm presence offered much-needed continuity amid rapid change. At the same time, the British Empire was undergoing a profound transformation. The vast territories that had once made Britain the world's greatest imperial power were beginning to gain independence. This process of decolonization was complex and often difficult, involving negotiations, conflicts, and new political realities. Queen Elizabeth II oversaw the transition from empire to the Commonwealth, a voluntary association of independent countries that shared historical ties with Britain. This evolution helped maintain friendly relations with former colonies and redefined Britain's global role. Throughout her early reign, Elizabeth embraced her constitutional duties with a strong sense of responsibility and dedication. She supported the democratic process by remaining politically neutral while also providing a steady figurehead who embodied the nation's traditions and values. Her reign coincided with significant social and political movements, including the rise of the welfare state, the expansion of civil rights, and the changing role of women in society. Britain itself was experiencing cultural shifts, from the conservative 1950s through the rebellious 1960s, and onward into the decades of modernization and globalization. Despite these changes, Queen Elizabeth II remained a constant presence, adapting the monarchy to the evolving times without losing the dignity and respect associated with the crown. The media's increasing attention on the royal family during Elizabeth's reign marked a new era of public engagement. Television broadcasts of royal events such as her coronation in 1953 brought the monarchy into people's homes in a way that had never been done before. Elizabeth recognized the power of media to connect with her subjects and used it wisely to maintain the monarchy's relevance. This openness helped foster a sense of familiarity and affection between the public and the royal family, even as the institution itself remained steeped in tradition. Throughout decades marked by economic difficulties, political crises, and social upheaval, Elizabeth's sense of duty and stability made her a figure of reassurance. She became a symbol of continuity for many generations, representing the enduring values of service, resilience, and national unity. Her reign also witnessed many personal and public challenges, including family difficulties and shifting public expectations. Yet Elizabeth's steadfast commitment to her role as queen earned her deep respect at home and abroad. Over the decades, she traveled extensively, meeting countless people from all walks of life, embodying a spirit of diplomacy and goodwill. Queen Elizabeth II's reign is often described as a bridge between the old world and the modern era, maintaining ancient traditions while embracing necessary change. Her legacy is not only in the length of her time on the throne, but in the manner in which she carried her responsibilities with grace, humility, and unwavering dedication. For many, she remains the epitome of duty and stability amid a world that has changed beyond recognition since she first became queen. In the later years of her reign, Queen Elizabeth II encountered a series of significant challenges that tested both her leadership and the resilience of the British monarchy. The royal family, once regarded as an untouchable symbol of tradition and stability, found itself under intense public scrutiny amid a rapidly changing social landscape. One of the major difficulties came from within the family itself. Several members experienced highly publicized personal struggles and scandals. The divorces of 3 of her children, Prince Charles and Princess Diana's separation, the split of Prince Andrew from Sarah Ferguson, and the eventual separation of Prince Edward and Sophie Rhys-Jones. These shocked many who had long viewed the royal family as a unified and flawless institution. These separations, unprecedented in the history of the monarchy, were accompanied by a growing media frenzy that closely followed every development, often in a sensationalist and intrusive manner. This intense scrutiny heightened public awareness of the monarchy's human side, but also exposed its vulnerabilities. Perhaps the most devastating blow to the monarchy's public image was the death of Princess Diana in 1997. Diana, often called the People's Princess, had won the hearts of millions with her warmth, compassion, and charitable work. Her tragic death in a car accident plunged the nation and the world into mourning. But it also sparked widespread criticism of the royal family's initial response, which was seen by many as cold and detached. Queen Elizabeth II faced a delicate balancing act, upholding royal protocol while responding to the overwhelming public grief. Eventually, the Queen addressed the nation in a rare televised speech, expressing sympathy and acknowledging the affection people had for Diana. This moment marked a turning point, highlighting the monarchy's need to adapt to the expectations of a more media-savvy and emotionally connected public. Over the years, Elizabeth II worked steadily to modernize the monarchy and make it more accessible and relatable to the people she served. She increased transparency in royal affairs, allowing greater media access to the royal family, and encouraging charitable initiatives that connected the monarchy to contemporary social issues. She embraced new forms of communication, including televised royal events which brought the public closer to the traditions and ceremonies of the monarchy than ever before. Despite these changes, her reign embodied a persistent tension between the enduring customs of the past and the demands of a modern constitutional monarchy. Elizabeth had to navigate this balance carefully, maintaining the dignity and gravitas of the crown while showing flexibility and openness to change. As Queen Elizabeth II grew older, discussions about succession became increasingly prominent. Her eldest son, Charles, Prince of Wales, long prepared for the role he would one day inherit, often championing causes such as environmentalism and sustainable development. However, Charles's path to the throne was not without controversy, including his well-known relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles and the lingering legacy of his marriage to Diana. The public's complex feelings about Charles influenced how the monarchy planned for the future, making the transition a subject of intense interest and speculation. Despite the many challenges, Queen Elizabeth II remained a deeply respected and beloved figure throughout her lifetime. Her unwavering dedication to duty, her calm demeanor in the face of adversity, and her ability to symbolize continuity through decades of social and political change earned her admiration both in the United Kingdom and around the world. Elizabeth's reign was a testament to resilience, adapting to new realities while preserving the heritage of the British monarchy. She embodied stability in times of uncertainty and remained a living link to a history spanning more than 6 decades. Her passing marked the end of an era, leaving behind a legacy of grace, perseverance, and steadfast leadership that will be remembered for generations to come. The accession of King Charles III marks a significant and historic new chapter in the long and storied history of the British monarchy. After decades as the longest-serving heir apparent, Charles finally ascended to the throne, bringing with him a wealth of experience, a deep sense of duty, and a vision shaped by many years of public service and personal reflection. His journey from Prince of Wales to King has been watched closely by millions, both in the United Kingdom and across the world. Charles's reign promises to be different in many ways as he embraces issues close to his heart, most notably his long-standing commitment to environmental causes. Throughout his life, King Charles has been an outspoken advocate for sustainability, climate change awareness, and the protection of nature. These priorities are expected to play a central role in his reign, reflecting a modern monarch who seeks to align the traditions of the crown with the pressing challenges of the 21st century. However, this path will not be without its challenges. King Charles III inherits a monarchy that must carefully balance centuries-old traditions with the expectations of a contemporary and diverse public. The role of the monarchy in modern society is evolving, and with that comes the delicate task of maintaining relevance while respecting the deep-rooted customs that have defined British royal history. This includes managing public perception, adapting ceremonial functions, and continuing the monarchy's charitable work in ways that resonate with younger generations and a global audience. In addition, King Charles must navigate a complex political landscape where the monarchy's constitutional role is strictly defined, but where public opinion can shape its future. Another important aspect of King Charles III's reign is the relationship between the United Kingdom and the wider Commonwealth. The Commonwealth, a voluntary association of 56 countries, many of which were once part of the British Empire, represents a unique and evolving connection that extends the monarchy's influence far beyond the British Isles. As these countries continue to develop their own identities and aspirations, the monarchy faces the task of fostering unity and goodwill while respecting their independence. This dynamic relationship will be a key focus during Charles's time as king as he seeks to strengthen bonds and modernize the monarchy's global role. Looking ahead, the line of succession remains secure with Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, poised to inherit the throne in the future. Prince William's presence offers a sense of continuity and renewal for the royal family. His relatively young age and popularity suggest a fresh chapter is on the horizon, one that may further modernize the institution while maintaining the dignity and stability the monarchy provides. Together, King Charles III and Prince William represent the blending of tradition and innovation, a royal family striving to adapt while preserving its essential identity. Today, the monarchy's role is a unique blend of ceremonial duties, charitable engagement, and serving as a symbol of national unity and identity. The royal family participates in numerous public events, supports countless charitable organizations, and offers a familiar and comforting presence during times of national celebration or crisis. This role, while different from the absolute power monarchs once held, remains deeply significant in Britain and many other countries. It continues a story that began over 1,000 years ago with kings and queens shaping history through leadership, resilience, and service. King Charles III's reign is the latest chapter in this ongoing narrative, a story of tradition, adaptation, and the enduring power of monarchy in a changing world. From the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms to the modern constitutional monarchy, from Alfred the Great to Charles III, 1,000 years of power, 1,000 years of blood, 1,000 years of survival. The crown endures. The story continues, and the shadow of history falls long across the future of the realm. King Charles III's reign is the latest chapter in this ongoing narrative, a story of tradition, adaptation, and the enduring power of monarchy in a changing world. From the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms to the modern constitutional monarchy, from Alfred the Great to Charles III, 1,000 years of power, 1,000 years of blood, 1,000 years of survival. The crown endures, the story continues, and the shadow of history falls long across the future of the realm.